First item is public comment for closed session items only. We do not have anyone here in person to make a public comment on our closed session items, and there's nothing on email. So with that, we'll go ahead and do our roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Here.
Trustee Dickinson.
Here.
Trustee Donnelly.
Here.
Trustee Jackson Miller.
Here.
And we heard from trustee Edmondson that she will not be able to attend.
Thank you very much. Great. With that, we're going to convene to closed session. Closed session. Thank you so much.
Oh.
We get our together. Here's our echo. Is it that?
Who's got the remote?
Serious meeting. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
We're good.
Carpet looks good.
Okay. I'll try that again. Welcome everyone to our board meeting. I'm going to call our open session to order. It's 6:40 p.m. and as always, we could begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and mission statement from one of our students. If we'd like to begin. Principal Killian, would you like to introduce your student?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have the privilege tonight of honoring one of our fifth grade students, and it's awesome to have his teacher here tonight as well, Alana Lowe. And I'll let her say something real quick too about him. But I just want to say that as a new principal in the first 6 weeks of school, it's almost impossible to know every single 400 of your students. But it's critical moments like this where you put that face to a name and you have that cemented memory in that place and time. And what I know about Jaron from what his teachers have told me and what little he's shared with me about himself is that he loves swimming. He loves time with his friends outside of school. He really enjoys school. He puts his heart and his all into everything. And with a young man with character like that, he deserves to be recognized. So I just want to let him slow say a little something too about it and introduce Jaron.
Thank
Can I stay right here? Would you prefer me to stand up?
However you're comfortable is fine with us. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You guys, Jaron.
Yeah.
Sharon, we're so lucky. I feel so lucky to have you as a student. When this little email comes out and says it's Main Street's turn to select a student, Miss Franny, Miss Camille, and I instantly were like, Jaron, perfect, yes. Because this gentleman, you could see, he is a gentleman who's not just polite. You know, there's kids who are polite and they know how to say please and thank you. But Jaron, your politeness goes straight through to your kindest, most caring, most authentic, awesome self, the way you present and carry, and you've always been this way. I met you in 4th grade and you were that same way. You know how to be super respectful, and there's this word that I'm looking for, dignified. You're so dignified, and you're 10? Yeah. 10.
Wow.
Who's described as dignified at 10? Nobody, except Jaron. I mean, it's his insights, it's the way he sits and talks, it's the way you share with your peers, but you're not a robot, you're not just polite, it's like you mean it, and you also know how to have fun, and so it's just a delight to be around you. And I mean it. Today we were just sitting around as teachers talking, and we were filling out these little communication logs, and just say Miss Camille was like, oh, Jaron, he's got the best insights. So I'm so pleased that you get this opportunity so that the broader community can know what an amazing person you are. And I know you love school, and I just know that you're going to do amazing things. So thanks for starting our meeting off. And thank you for coming, and thank you for being here. Maybe show us your backward jump before the night is over.
I'll show you right now.
It's your younger brother passed PK at our school as well. So Jaron, we'll have you come up front, and I will let you take it away.
Okay, please stand. Hand on your right hand on your heart. Ready, go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. SoCal Union Elementary School District. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for a lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
Wonderful.
Don't go away.
Yes. Jaron, thank you so much for starting off our meeting. We have a certificate to present to you, and it has some really wonderful words to describe you. Is it okay if I read these aloud and before I present it to you? Thank you so much. The SoCal Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees Certificate of Recognition for our Student Pledge of Allegiance Leader and Mission Statement Reader, Jaron Correa, 5th grade student at Main Street Elementary. Jaren is an exceptional student. I can tell this is written by your teacher, an exceptional student and human being. Jaren is one of the kindest, most caring, and most polite people I know. He has an incredible gift of focused listening and a genuine curiosity and passion for learning. He makes us teachers feel successful because he makes our lessons visible in his work. He is loved by his peers and has been recognized by his classmates as being thoughtful and flexible. Jaren loves anime and has inspired other students to learn more about his passion. I simply adore Jaren's presence in class, and I'm so proud of his hard work so far this year. One more round of applause for Jaren. That is a glowing description, and it paints such a beautiful picture of some of the things that your teacher gets to see every day. Would you like to come on up and you tell me if you're comfortable with a handshake, elbow bump, or no? All right, then let's practice our handshake.
Yeah.
We'll be able to do that again. We are so proud and happy to have you here. This is for you. We also have some gifts. You can pick something for yourself, something for any siblings you have at home, or although I see he has something new he's already playing with, but if you'd like to pick a little something, please do for yourself and for your brother. Is it okay if we ask you some questions?
Yes.
They'll be friendly questions. We love to get to know our students. Team, any questions for Jaren?
Jaren, you know what? You had some wonderful words spoken about from your teacher and your principal. Mom, be proud.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Now tell me about your passion.
I like to I really like to play tag, but what I want to do when I grow up as a career is probably designing games. Because when I play video games, I feel like free, like every different video game has a different thing. So it's like a different world. So if you're stressed, you can just do it to like escape for a while and get a break. So I want to create games to try to have that same effect on people of the next generation.
Wonderful. Have you been coding at all?
No, but I have a game called Mario Maker, and you can design your own Mario level.
Okay. And what level are you? Did you put yourself at the top?
Working on it. Yeah, nice.
I get it, you design the levels in the game.
How did that get okay?
Yeah, well, I got two things for you. The first one is you mentioned swimming. So do you surf? We live right next to the ocean. Are you more of a pool guy or an ocean guy?
I'm more of like a pool guy when it comes to swimming, but when I'm in the ocean, I like to belly surf, like just get into the ocean and jump on
Sure.
the wave.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very great, man. And,
So-
and
You scream out when you hit the right way.
And if it's like a huge wave, because it's not a surfboard, I kind of go under. So it's like I'm surfing under the wave.
good for you. That's how surfers do it too. Right on. And my other thing is just a statement. I mean, we've heard some great things from your teacher about you, and I just want to take 1 second to let you know how lucky you are, because Miss Lowe was actually my kid's teacher when they were at Main Street. So remember how valuable that is to have teachers like this, and you absolutely have the right attitude and show the right amount of enthusiasm and dignity in everything you do. And I appreciate that. And I also appreciate our great teachers that are guiding students like yourself.
Yeah.
Good.
So I have a question on gaming. So what do you like about the gaming? The music, the artwork, the actual structure of the game?
Probably the structure, because each game has a different structure. Yes, most games have different kind of like background. So it's like some games are realistic while some aren't.
Right.
So probably what I would like most is the structure, because like some games you have high jumps for purposes, and then some games you can jump, but you don't really have. You jump, but there's not really much purpose to jumping.
Okay.
But they still added a little jump, so you can still have the ability to. And some games have like no jump, which makes it like a puzzle game, which makes it hard because you can't jump up to places.
Right. Okay. So you grind a lot.
It's so well thought out. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Jumping.
I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, unless anyone has any other questions for Jaren, you've done a wonderful job meeting with us, answering questions,
Yeah.
getting our meeting off to an amazing start. Yeah, it's really our pleasure
We
to
take a
meet you.
picture, like see the
Yeah.
change you create.
All
Is
right.
that okay? But don't forget to pick out a
Yeah.
goodie. We can wait for you. No, you know.
It's waiting, so I'm not holding it
the whole time.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
whenever
smart
you
man.
want to.
Come on over
Whenever you
here
want to.
and face that way.
Yeah, you get right in that corner or face over here.
Can we get mom and the mother too?
Can we get a teacher?
Would you like
and principal
Oh, yeah.
and mom?
Yeah, let's.
Mom, do you want to be in the picture?
Yeah.
Get along. Yes.
And we'll take a picture and send it.
Where's the camera? We usually like to put the picture up on the website. Is that okay? We put it on the website. Thank you. No, that's a photo.
Oh, Bill,
Good.
just a little bit more to your right. There we go.
Oh, my gosh.
Mom, you can take home those little puzzles, take them with you.
There we go.
There we go.
Shove it in.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Good big brother.
Right.
Can you add good big brother to the list?
He can get whatever he wants. It's okay.
So,
I think Cassie's like.
Okay, uh-huh. Perfect, great choices. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate having you here.
You know, it was really awesome.
Have
to
a
meet you,
wonderful
too.
rest of school year. I'm sure we're gonna hear many, many things about you in the future. Maybe we'll see you again in some new role when you're at New Brighton, but we really appreciate you. And Mom, we really appreciate you taking the time to come down tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
all right, take care.
Yeah,
I'm out of
good
the way.
night.
You're welcome to watch the rest of the meeting, but you really don't have to, but take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. They awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Little children.
So,
Like,
so
gonna need a little bit.
so Jennifer, 2 sales.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Wanted to play Mario Brothers.
All right, I'm gonna keep us moving. Next up is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Robert's got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, it was the report out of closed session. The board met in closed session. And we took action on one item on special education settlement agreement 2023-2401. The board voted to approve on a vote of 4-0. Next up is a public hearing.
Yes, thank you. Each year, there's a public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials for the use of starting the school year of each of those given years. The education code basically says that we have reviewed the textbooks that are available to our students and that they are available. If they're not available, they have to be available within that fiscal year. And so we have emailed all of our principals to determine whether we had all of those materials available. So I'd like to open the hearing for sufficiency of materials.
All right, I'll open public hearing, 6:52. Would anyone like to speak in our public hearing? I don't see anyone in
Don't rush the
person.
stage.
Yeah,
Jeopardy thing.
Get in line.
as we do, we'll check our public email just to make sure.
Nothing on email.
Nothing on email. Thank you. All right, then. With that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and if something does come in later on email, we'll always be open to it. And we have an action, or we have an item on it later. in the
It's a
agenda.
consent item.
That's right, it's consent,
Yeah.
so still, we'll honor it if we get an email later. All right, then, 6:53, closing the public hearing. Next up is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda?
I move and I have a comment after the second.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, we've got a motion, and who got that second? Do we need clarification, or do you have it? Got it? Okay,
Trustee Donald.
sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
My name
You had
is.
a comment?
So item 5B, I want to recognize and thank Michelle Kennedy for all her work here and for the years that she's put in. And I wish her well in her future.
All right,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yes,
Perfect.
okay. So we've got a motion and a second, and we've got some resolutions in here, so we'll do a roll call vote on the consent agenda when you're ready.
Trustee Jackson Miller,
Aye.
trustee Donnelly,
Aye.
trustee Dickinson,
Aye.
trustee Rodriguez.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Next up is public communications. We have options of emailing the board or appearing in person to speak on any items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here who'd like to make public comment for anything not on the agenda? None in person. Do we have any on email?
Nothing on email.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to standing reports, we'll start with items from assistant superintendents. Great, do you mind beginning?
All right, well, just a few items I'm going to share today. Lots has been going on. The first that I'd like to comment on is the wonderful addition to the administrative assistant ed services, Stephanie Garcia, who started a week ago. She has had a tenure of success at Santa Cruz Gardens and is now showing great success already here. She's a self-starter, she's a quick learner, and she's also just a pleasure to spend time with. She's a genuine heart. And so I'm really enjoying getting to know her even better. That's my first update. Second update, got to volunteer at the Capitol Art and Wine Festival, which was a wonderful time. Checking to see if people are 21 or not is always a joy, but I meet about 500 new people every time. And some people that I know already. And so that's just a great way to spend time once a year, just to see the community coming through and people that are not in our community that come from a long distance to see what that event is like. Also just completed the state entry report for the California dashboard, that plan that the board approved last month. So that's great. That's all out. We got the notification from the Santa Cruz County Office of Education that our district's LCAP was approved. Yay! Always great to get to the next level.
Yeah.
I've been starting to dig into the iReady diagnostic data, and then looking at just next what is coming in terms of disaggregating the data by marginalized group. I was able to attend the CS Now, which is the Computer Science Now leadership luncheon at the county office last week. It was an amazing event. It was the first one that they'd held. The structure of it is they have a bunch of kind of educational leaders and community leaders that come together, and they talk about computer science in our county and in our world, and how to introduce it into schools. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this particular event was they had people in our community that own businesses around computer science and STEM, who talked about their entryway into computer science and STEM and being very timid and afraid of what that might look like and how difficult they thought it was going to be before they started, to where they are now, and really kind of acknowledging that our entire lives, social lives and economic lives, are all built in computer science. There is no way you can have a social life or an economic life without that. And it was really great to hear students talk about how it was really informing their direction in school. The other component that I really liked was that they were talking about in the computer science field, they are not finding people of like we focus on like the whole child. That's one of the things that we say, but a lot of times what they're finding in the computer science industry is that they need that well-rounded person to be doing the coding and the computer sciences work, or else you get one slice of a vision as the coding happens, right? And so you're not seeing the arts integration, you're not seeing some of those things that are coming out in like the outcome of the coding. And so they were talking about how that was really important. And that's something that I think is important for our youth to understand. So I loved that. We had a UCSC professor come in and speak. Also, it was very interesting what he was doing with his UCSC students. They were actually looking through social media, and they were talking about like, what are the themes that we see and why is that happening? And how does that inform what the work we do? So there's just some really interesting things, and some things I'd like to see us maybe try here. So those are things that, we'll talk about. And then Monday of this week, I was able to attend the CSCVNTP, which is a Santa Cruz Silicon Valley New Teacher Project Steering Committee meeting.
Wow.
This is an amazing group that comes together. Really, the purpose of the group is to introduce new teachers into the profession with support. So this particular meeting was the steering committee, which is all the administrators that support the schools, that support the new teachers, that work with the mentors. And so it was really it was a call to action to say, administrators, are you serious about doing the work about bringing in new teachers successfully, working with their mentors successfully, and retaining good quality teachers? So that was really kind of the basic thrust of the meeting, and I really appreciated that. There was, I think, about maybe 40 or so people that were on in that steering committee, and it's 4 counties wide of administrators. So there's representatives from Santa Cruz, Monterey, Silicon Valley, and all those areas. So that's great. So those are my few updates for today.
All right, thank you.
I have a little bit longer than normal update. I usually try to keep mine pretty tight, but just a lot of activities kind of to look in the rearview mirror that have taken place and a few upcoming events. So apologize in advance for being a little bit longer. So wanted to acknowledge the author's visit that we were able to attend at Main Street. And Wilson does a lot of the coordination on that. And we were able to hear from author Remy Lai and all the great books that she's written. And I can say that the students were really captivated by her presentation. I was glad to attend this past Monday, the SCA meeting. We do that once a month where I come in after their regular general meeting. And we also have a really good structure that they set up, and that's what's going well and what could be better. And so that really provides a good constructive dialogue. And so appreciate all of SCA members, especially DNR Martin and Gordon Barrett, the president and vice president. I too enjoyed the Capitola Art and Wine Festivals. Thank you for everybody who steps up and gives up part of their Sunday to be a part of the community and one of their great events. Last night, right here in this room, we had our meeting of the Racial Justice Task Force. And I just so appreciate the folks that give up their time on an evening when we're all so busy to talk about equity in our district and how we can continuously improve to support all students in our district. And I usually wouldn't do this, but I want to read the names, and I want to do it because I'm really grateful for the groups that we have. It's not easy to get a group that kind of intermingles easily, that includes parents, classified staff members, certificated staff members, management, and board. That's kind of like a dream team. And a lot of times in those settings, it's kind of like one group's presenting, one group's getting, and it's not like real interaction. And I can tell you right here in this room last night, it was real interaction on some really good topics and some meaty topics. And we were supposed to go 2.5 hours with Nicole Anderson. We went 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I don't know if I speak for everybody, but it went by really fast. And that's a good sign, on a random weeknight when we all want to be home. And so we had these parents: Joy Jacobs, Carolyn Friedman, used to be a board member here, Marilyn Himes, Laura Newman, and Yvette Brooks, who's also Capitola City Council member. So a great, powerful group of parents. We had classified staff members: Allison Watkins from New Brighton, Manny Castro, the campus supervisor over there, Sandra Paredes right here from our office, Michelle Jesper, wonderful librarian, and CSE president Enrique Domo. We had certificated staff members: Julie Livingstone, intervention teacher extraordinaire over at Soquel, Erica Stack, the ELD teacher over here at New Brighton, and from Santa Cruz Gardens, Noel Urs and Monica Inati. And then we had a couple of managers: Sandy Figueroa, our personnel coordinator, Carlo Albano, principal, and 2 board members, Callie Edmondson, who's not here tonight, and then Phil Rodriguez also joined us last night. So just really appreciative of the dialogue of that group. And I know it's going to continue to make the work for equity in our district stronger. We're in the middle of Hispanic or Latinx Heritage Month, and in my weekly visits around classrooms, I've already seen teachers doing projects supporting that group and their heritage, and that's a great part of our equity work here. A great event that's coming up that you've already passed a resolution on is that October will be LGBTQ+ History Month. So thank you for passing that resolution, because it's something that our district believes in strongly from the top down, and that means everything. In that same vein, there will be an upcoming event from the Safe Schools Project, and that's the Queer, Trans, and Allied Student Summit that'll be taking place on September 30th. That includes the Glitter Kids Camp for students in 3rd through 5th grade. We have all of those flyers up on our website. We strongly support it, not just with our words, but with our action. We provide transportation via a bus. So one of our bus drivers comes in and makes sure that all of the students don't have transportation as a barrier who want to attend. And so I want to thank Erica Stack, who coordinates the QSA over at New Brighton. And then, of course, our transportation department, Steve and Enrique, they make sure that the transportation happens that day. So again, we support that group, not just with words, but with action. The World Day of Bullying Prevention is coming up on October 2nd. Some of you remember to wear blue. I didn't. I'm sorry, but I will on October 2nd. And I just really appreciate everything the schools do out there on a daily basis. It's not just a one-time thing. This is just one time where we kind of make it symbolic. But our schools do wonderful work every day to try to prevent bullying. The Great California Shakeouts on October 19th, where millions of Americans, including us, will be practicing our earthquake drill. College and Career Week is coming up on October 23rd through 27th. We passed a resolution to recognize that as well. Thank you for that. And I believe that our avid team of Johan Ryberg and Andreas Acosta will be again coordinating going over to Cabrillo on that Monday night for their college night at Cabrillo, which is a great event. Lots and lots of different universities represented there for our future college scholars. We now have a tentative date pretty well set for a community pop-up in New Brighton. So that community pop-up will be where parents from our district can come and access community resources. And one notable one is Narcan distribution. And so if you don't know, Narcan is the nasal spray medication that can reverse an overdose from opioids, including fentanyl. And so I'll be giving you more information about that. A little tickler, November 4th is a Saturday. And I got to give a big shout out to Brittany Birchall, who is ran point on that, working with the County Office of Education to get it set up, as well as our district nurse, Vicki Grisham, who has worked diligently to get the amount of Narcan that is necessary that day to be able to make sure anybody in the community who wants it can have it and have easy access to it. I also want to acknowledge our support team at Business Services, but I'm going to save that because we have a big item on financial information later, so I'll save that for later. So thanks for the extra time tonight.
It was all incredibly important, so thank you. We'll move along to items from CSEA, and it's Darlene. Hi.
My phone's not working.
Oh, no problem.
Can I sit?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
So my name is Darlene Miller. I'm very happy and grateful to be here this evening to represent the CSEA members. I currently work at New Brighton Middle School as an IA or instructional aid and resource. I've been with the district for almost 10 years. I'm very grateful. I do enjoy working for SoCal Elementary School District. Because it's very much feels like a family, and the staff I meet, whether it's classified or anyone in the office, the front office, we have 3 people who work in the front office. I think that's Lori, Lynn, Alicia, and Desiree. So kudos to them for their help and support. So I'm really grateful. And then Lori's been really helpful too. She used to be in the front office. So there's been times I reached out to her. She's been wonderful. And then of course, Jennifer's been wonderful too to answer the questions I have. Very supportive there. So moving on. Oops. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, so from Enrique Domo Jr. and Lynn Macayo, Mr. Turnbull, we look forward to negotiating with you October 2nd. We are having our monthly union meeting next Thursday, September 28th. Thank you again for all your support, and we hope to continue to have a great academic school year while we stay healthy. And then I just have one
Here.
Yeah.
and then there's one little thing I wanted to add. It's kind of a little joke. It has to do with school. So what do pigs do after school? It's related to education.
Okay.
So anyways, their handwork.
Wow.
Setting my kid.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Next up, we have SEA and Alana Lowe.
Hi.
Hi.
It's weird. Good evening.
Good evening.
Santa Cruz Gardens is happy to report that UFLI,
You fly.
Thank you. It's being implemented with enthusiasm. What? I don't even know what you like.
It sounds like the indoor skydiving place, but I don't think that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Is Joby sponsoring?
Well, ask Jessica later, Dr. Kieran later. Okay. They have also been piloting Inner Explorer social emotional learning curriculum with great results. The Santa Cruz Gardens community has also been working on some impressive SAGE science projects such as outdoor learning spaces and trail mapping. At Main Street, the PBIS theme for this month was perseverance. Heather Springy and her class did an amazing job at the school-wide assembly, getting students pumped up and inspired by examples of famous people who persevered through difficulty. It really was amazing. The students were so interactive. One thing Mrs. Killian has brought to us, I'm so proud of the formal names of them. I've gotten classes coming up and really hosting the assemblies, and it's been really cool at our school. Springy did an amazing job with her kids. It was super interactive and really fun. Counselor Betsy Crawford followed up with encouraging classroom visits to reinforce the concept. The author visit by Remy Lai, which Mr. Turnbull has mentioned, was a smashing success. Got students excited and talking about books. Main Street enjoyed hosting some classes from SoCal Elementary for this event. Shout out to our phenomenal Life Lab teacher, Megan McElroy, who has worked with students to create glorious fall abundance in the garden on the Main Street campus. Main Street is excited to add chess and theater opportunities again coming in the fall, and the school hopes that they will be able to say goodbye to the wasps soon. At SoCal Elementary. At SoCal Elementary, they are gearing up with planning their fall carnival set for October 20th. In addition, the 5th grade classes are really looking forward to science camp and joining the other 2 elementary sites for this annual 5th grade tradition. Is Santa Cruz Gardens going the same week? SoCal Elementary appreciates that they started September fully staffed. SoCal also wants to take the opportunity to praise their recess coaches who do so much to support SoCal students beyond the playground. New Brighton continues to run some outstanding programs for students. The after-school clubs are tremendously popular and the ELOP program continues to thrive. Something of particular note is that the fishing club is bigger than ever, giving students the opportunity to take good old-fashioned fishing trips. This club, run by Melissa Walding, Darren Gertler, and Lee Hoover, with additional support from CSEA President Enrique Domo, provides many students their first ever experience with fishing. Opal Cliffs shares that one student in their learning community is working on a paper about her experience simultaneously competing in a national ski trial while attending school remotely and keeping up her grades. Another student who struggled socially and academically in a traditional classroom environment is making great strides and seems to have also made some impressive recent breakthroughs due to their perseverance and diligence. The change in the student is inspiring. The 3rd grade Opal Cliff student participating in school from Europe is currently in Cornwall, England, working on a project comparing the coastline there to the coastal geography of Santa Cruz. He is also working on another project using stop animation, learning to play piano, and learning Spanish. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for reading all of that.
I know.
Thanks to everyone.
Can we teach our kids more?
This is so great. We receive
Yeah.
so much information every day, however many emails we get, and they're all informative. We learn so much, but hearing these in person is just also really delightful. So thank you for reading them, and thank you to everyone who contributed. Okay, I think it's our turn now. Items from trustees. Anyone in particular want to start?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not really that exciting, so nothing really to report.
You're
However,
really exciting.
I hope it blends in with the fish stuff, but thank you for putting up the artwork, Mrs. Freitas, TK class, Rainbow Fish. Is that the same class down there too?
That is a different class.
Okay,
That is, I believe from the art teacher, Miss Blackburn. Sorry.
Yeah.
Names.
well, they look like fun projects, so thank you for hanging them in here. It makes it bright and lively.
I don't know what to report. I just wanted to thank Scott. I thought your Friday update this last week was really detailed and thorough. I appreciated reading through all of it, and your notes we're on point.
Okay, so I was also at the Art and Wine Festival, and a couple of things about that, and that is, it's great to meet constituents. You stand in one place and they all come by, and then you know, friends and neighbors that you check in with. Some I haven't seen for years, and then you know, like so that was great. And it for those of us who participate, it's a great team builder. We get to chit chat with you know, staff we never are around, so for me, it's very valuable. The second thing was I attended a UC SC extension panel on generative AI, and at that thing, a lot of stuff got thrown around, but one of my takeaways is a new job title out there called prompt engineer, and that's a noun, not an adjective. And the last thing is the task force meeting last night. You said it is great interaction. Everybody felt safe and able to speak whatever it is they had on their mind, and everyone accepted those opinions and built on those. That's it for me.
You even brought your book.
Yeah. So this is our textbook, 3 chapters. Is everybody caught up?
Done. Light reading.
I don't have much to report. I also had the pleasure of attending the Art and Wine Festival as a fun volunteer opportunity for us to engage, and really appreciate getting to see folks we don't see as often. And thank you again to now I'm blanking, Sandy and Jen. Sorry, thank you very
Taking
much
the baton
for
from Sandy
taking that. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And getting us organized. So appreciate that opportunity. And then back to school night at Santa Cruz Gardens was the day after our last board meeting. So it's always wonderful to go to the campus. I still can't believe that for the first time in so many years, like 15 years or something, I no longer have a student in elementary school, but it's just wonderful to see the similarities across our sites, and then also the special differences that make each campus so unique and wonderful for our families. So thanks again to the teachers and staff and families for being so welcoming. And that's it for me. We're all ready. We can move on to our first presentation, which is our discussion on the LCAP.
Well, thank you. So as we do each time we meet, we share a little bit about the LCAP and the progress that we're making towards the actions related to the LCAP. Tonight's LCAP Bite is related to Goal 2 through the use of data to identify research-based classroom differentiation, professional development, and systemic, equitable, inclusive, and culturally responsive supports needed to close the predictable achievement gap. This is in relation to action 2.4, and that's culturally responsive in school inclusion practice and support. So as the board knows, we've been working with Melissa Roberts and Candace Smith-Isaac with our administrative team, and now they're going to be working with our certificated and classified teams this year. But the work that they do with us is related to the book. I think I've showed the board before. It is Culturally Responsive Education in the Brain. The writer of that is Zaretta Hammond. And so my report tonight will be a little bit about some work that I've been doing in addition to the work with Candace and Melissa. And that is that Zaretta Hammond herself held a virtual masterclass last week that I was able to attend. It was last Thursday night. The class was called The Next 4 Weeks, Bridging from Building Community to Building a Community of Learners. And in that, she really talked about the insightful strategy that goes from building relationships with students and that sense of belonging, and not making like a hard turn, but a soft turn towards building learning partnerships and building for staff to build alliances with students in control of their learning. And so it really talked about 3 specific strategies to help teachers to do that. And they were pretty simple strategies, but it increases the rigor in the classroom. And then she broke those 3 strategies down into like 3 component areas, like what is the strategy? What are the resources and tools you need to do that? And then how do you get started? And so I brought just a copy of this and I'll be sharing it with our staff. It's not even very long. It's not even 10 pages, but basically what it says is, for kids to take ownership of their learning is actually a really liberating thing for them. And it's a really important thing to allow them to do so that they become independent learners, not dependent learners. And oftentimes we find our students to be sometimes more dependent on us than they need to be. And so it really kind of goes from that premise to how to build kind of a place where learning is embraced by mistake making. Learning is a place where language isn't changed to suit the interest of the learner, but really to be at the level of language that they need to pursue like a skill. And what we're finding in some of our iReady data is that our vocabulary score is a little bit lower than we would like. And so it really resonated with, are we using the terms that are used in our textbooks, that are used in our assessments, that are really used in our standards? Or are we talking about them differently and how to kind of bridge those two? So it was a 2 hours of instruction. It could have gone on for 2 days and I still would have loved it. But it really was just a taste. So it was a master class, meaning like we're going to go really fast and really quick. But I'm really looking forward into reading a little bit more of her work and sharing that with our staff, because I just think they were very simple strategies, very simple tools, but high leverage. So that's my update for the LCAP tonight.
All right. Thank you. Questions? No, all good up here. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. And there's nothing in email. Thank you for the update. Always appreciate these. Again, puts the whole piece, brings it all together when we look at the LCAP as a whole. So thank you. Our next item is the discussion regarding our governance handbook. And similar to last time, we do have a board member missing, so maybe we can sort of discuss that in terms of how much we want to do tonight.
Sure.
Or just, our ability to bring it back when we have the full team.
Sure,
Yeah.
yes. So consider tabling it or?
Well, so last time, this was on our agenda last time, but there were only 4 of us. And we thought it was important to have the whole team here. So I'm open to either, tabling it and bringing it back, or having some discussion and then still bringing it back. So anybody have a preference?
I
Table.
say table it.
Yeah.
If we waited before for all of this.
Yeah,
might as well
yeah.
Do the same thing. There were same reasons hold true.
Right. It's probably.
Yeah, I don't
most
see,
efficient too,
reading
probably.
through it, I don't see any rush, really.
Okay.
And then we'll nominate her for all the committees.
In that case, you want to do it tonight? then. Unilaterally take action. Got it.
No.
Is that okay with you?
Of course.
All right.
The board desires.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a really
Yeah.
solid, strong
do it.
document, right? So, I think that's a good idea. So if we're okay to table and bring it back when we're all here together in person.
And I do remember she had some
Yeah.
ideas related to that too, so.
Absolutely.
All right, then we can move on to action, but I just sped it up faster than anyone expected. But when we're ready, we can move on to scroll to the next thing. Consider approval of our 22-23 unaudited actuals.
So I brought friends with me. Thank you, friends. So I'll start with Lori Struckmeyer, Director of Fiscal Services. During this, transition time, Lori has stepped up tremendously. And not only, she's basically learning her own role, being relatively new to it, but has had to step up and learn stuff above her role during this time. So thank you, Lori. Thank you for all your work and thank you for being here. And then, of course, you all know, some of you know from her time on our board, Lynette Hamby, who most recently was CBO at our sister district in Live Oak, is now retired, still lives in our community. And when we entered into this transition, she was the first name that came to my mind. And so I'd like to say that I went and asked, but I went and begged if she'd be willing to help us. But it didn't take much because I think we still hold a special place in our heart. So Lynette has been, while not filling the exact role of assistant superintendent, she has been a great consultant on all things related to finance, and really couldn't have gotten to this point without her. So thank you, Lynette, for all your work for our district.
Thank you.
So we're going to bring to you tonight unaudited actuals. I'm going to do a little presentation, and then, like I said, I brought my friends along here to help answer questions. But I thought I'd start with something simple. What are unaudited actuals? Everybody knows, right? I can just move past that. So a definition: unaudited actuals are an annual statement reporting the financial activities of the district in which the data are not yet formally audited. They will be. The auditors are coming. The auditors are coming. But unaudited actuals are presented to our board each September, reflecting the district's fiscal final year end closing from the previous June. So just to make sure, sometimes we kind of gloss over that a little bit, and that's a term that I thought would be helpful just to make sure we're clear on. So with that, we'll kind of dive into our presentation, and these are just some highlights. You see that there's lots and lots of pages. I think it was 70 some pages of a SACS report, and I'm sure you memorized every line verbatim, but just in case you didn't, we're going to go over some highlights here. So the district closed last fiscal year 22-23. So this is all about 22-23. Up an additional $547,000 in unrestricted, unassigned funds from our 22-23 estimated actuals reported to the board in June of this year. COVID relief funding. And so the numbers in the report, you will notice, I guess a word we could use is inflated, because there's a lot of one-time funding that came from COVID relief. There's ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and other funds that we have, but are not in our projected long-term funding picture. So just something that's kind of unique in these last couple of years and for the next couple of years. But the district received several one-time COVID relief funds that have not been utilized, but they will be. We have plans in place to spend them over the next 1 to 2 years. And we do that in a very mindful manner. Whatever funds are coming to timeout first, we spend those funds, of course, first, and then make plans in the future so we can spread it out for as long as possible and provide as many resources and programs for our students. STIRS and PERS, those are always part of this, and they're so important. I mean, we're, as educators, we're also grateful to have those pension programs available to us, but they are definitely a big impact on our district's budget, continue to be, and the contributions increased by approximately $300,000 just from 21-22. And we continue, we expect to see those increases, those types of increases to continue into this year. And for STIRS and PERS are the classified and certificated retirement programs for those that don't know all the acronyms out there. So ending fund balances, these aren't all of the funds and resources available to us, but we just hit some key highlights. And so in ELOP, which I think was mentioned earlier tonight in one of the reports, we have about 562,000. I will just say that Jessica, along with the principals and so many of the staff, have done an amazing job of keeping that program what I call local. It's very easy to farm out that, just to get a third party and just give them a lump sum and say, put in an after school program. But there's a couple things I don't think those kind of folks know our kids as well. And, quite honestly, we are also very excited that our hardworking staff have the opportunity to not only serve students, but to make $75 an hour in accessing that program. So it's a win all the way around for students and for staff. And the fact that it's locally done, I think makes it much more effective than just farming it out. The Educator Effectiveness Grant provides for a lot of opportunities for professional development, and we have $331,000 in that. There's almost $200,000 in our donation funds. In mental health funds, we have $146,000 and almost $100,000 in lottery funds. We'll go on now to GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And so something that just always has to be reported as a part of this is that what's called PERS and STIRS on behalf that has a net zero adjustment of $758,000. That's recorded in both revenue and expenditures. And we it will affect the 3% reserve. And so there's a minimum reserve that every district has to have of at least 3%. And that there is an impact from GASB 68. Major impacts overall. Of course, I've said it before, hate to be the bummer, but at least nobody can say it wasn't clear. Enrollment is down. It's like at a 20-year low across the district. As of last week, we're at 1,576 students. It was just a few years ago, we were over 1,900. There's no way the district can't feel that impact. It has that blow has been cushioned by all those COVID relief funds that we talked about earlier. And so not to be ominous, but those COVID relief funds aren't always going to be there. And we're working to try to plan for that day. But it is coming. ADA was down last year. So I've talked to you a lot about attendance across schools, district, county, state, and country. Our attendance rate was about 90% last year. Pre-COVID, it was between 95 and 96. That has a big impact. So when enrollment's down and attendance rate is down, ADA is down, and that's how we're funded. Looking ahead, as had been mentioned earlier, we're in negotiations. We're all tied up for 22-23, so we're in the current year, which is good. And we're in negotiations with both associations, CSEA and SEA. We've seen an uptick in regional program placements for some of our students. And so that is a cost factor. The most important thing is that students are in the right programs, but there is a cost factor there to placement in those programs. We talked about STIRS and PERS for us being up, and the contribution from the state is reduced. You can imagine there's impact there. The deadline for one-time funding sources that I've mentioned earlier, pattern of declining enrollment, and efforts aimed at increasing average daily attendance. Yesterday in our administrative council meeting, we spent a good 45 minutes to an hour collaborating and brainstorming on ways that we can commit to improve attendance. And I will say that we've been tracking it very closely, like August of this year to August of last year, so that it's apples to apples. And we were up about a percentage point in August of this year compared to August of last year. So yes. And so far for September, even though, we're just a little over halfway through the month, we're up about a percentage point compared to last September as well. So we're trying to really track that month by month. And so far, so good. And with that, I'll be glad to take your questions, and I will lean heavily on my friends.
That's a lot. I'll let somebody else go first.
Well, when that goes page by page,
Not line by line.
line by line, step by step. COVID fund, is that unrestricted, right? So we get that fund, or do we have to divvy it up in different areas?
It's not unrestricted.
It's not.
No.
Okay.
But because our superintendent pointed that out and the different, where we're up that 500 and so thousand in unrestricted funds.
Okay.
I'll just point you, if you want to look, point you to page, it's 14 of the report. It looks like I have a 19 with a circle on it. Does that help?
Yes,
Okay. And
my eyes can see those
on
circles.
that page, you can see that what is considered restricted balances. And those restricted balances are 3.5 million of your current district's ending fund balance
Okay.
for 22-23. So that's as Mr. Turnbull said, we are so Cal's looking at a considerable ending balance, but 3.5 million of that is restricted.
Okay.
So if you look at the COVID funds, there's quite a number of them. One of the biggest restricted funds you have right now is your block art, music, and instructional block grant. And that there's 966,000 carrying over, almost $1 million yet. So as was already mentioned, it will help carry over for the next couple of years because you have those funds. So it really will cushion what you're going through as with declining enrollment and the ABA. And it's not, as you all probably have heard, it's not unique to this district. All districts are seeing that decline, have seen that decline. And COVID did a real
Mhm.
number on our families and coming back and all that.
I did go through this, but so.
Well, that-
Embarrassing, it's like, yeah, Ted's on page. Oh, I was there, oh, that's right.
Yeah, there's just certain pieces like that, and it's important to note that,
Mm.
because when you look at the bottom line, it's like, oh, God. A lot of money carried over, but most of it's restricted.
Nice try, Ted.
No.
Yeah.
Do we know when the audit begins? Roughly? Oh, exactly, precisely, we know. Wow, so this is due September 15th and then two, 3 weeks later, boom, boom, boom.
Here, the fourth, yeah.
Okay.
Right in here, picking it apart.
Be bad, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Have any other questions?
I mean, can you talk about Person Stirs on behalf net zero adjustment of $758,000? What exactly does that mean?
Can you help us with that?
I can explain that.
Thank you.
I won't say too much because this is all broadcast, but the state wants the districts to recognize how much they contribute for STRS and PERS. And so the state says, this is how much we've been contributing for your district. So you bring it in and show it as revenue, but then you turn around and you post it as expense for your STRS and PERS.
Right.
So it nets to zero, but it's basically the state saying we want all districts to recognize.
That they're
That
giving
we're
us
contributing as
$758,000 and then we immediately just put that as an expense.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Understood.
So
Okay,
it's
just
the
perception.
Visibility.
Yeah.
Visibility, yeah.
But then
Transparency.
it affects the reserve because it gets counted that way.
The expense side of it gets counted to as your total expenses.
And my other question, I'm not sure if this is the right place, but you mentioned the 3% reserve, and I know we've talked a lot about that. In your presentation, you mentioned it's going to impact the 3% reserve. To what extent is it going to impact the 3% reserve, and how is that going to affect us moving forward?
What to the extent is 3% of another 700,000, because the STRS and PERS, then not only, was your question about the STRS and PERS?
Well, no, this is governmental accounting, the Gatsby slide.
Which
I think
slide
it
was
was.
that?
I believe that's the STRS.
It could, I know that was at the top of it, but I'm not sure if that was.
It's on page 162.
So because even though it's a net zero on your books, because we're having to book 758,000 additional expenditures, then it's an additional 3% reserve on that 758,000. So it's inflating.
That's a little confusing, yeah.
expenses.
Well,
Okay.
the way the accounting rule is forces us to use this number in the calculation of the reserve.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's pushing your 3%, your total up a bit.
Right, because it's accounted for and then,
It's
Right out,
the
so-
cost of visibility.
right, well.
Yeah.
Government's,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I have a couple of question areas. One is on that slide on the ending fund balances, it's like a 2-part question. Are all of those carried over, and is there indirect?
Are all the ending balances carried over? Yes,
Okay, and is
Yes.
any indirect in there?
yes, on the ones allowed, there's
Okay.
the state now, this has changed since I retired, but the state and the federal government now allow the district's indirect cost rate, which was 8.42% last year. So 8.42% was charged at everyone that was allowable, not
Right.
all are, but
Yeah, right,
most.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shouldn't apply for any that don't, right? And then the last question is, so how did we do with the cafeteria this year?
The cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very well.
Mountain School?
Rocking it.
Yeah.
Talking about Mountain School or?
Oh, no, we were,
Like the ending fund balance
The
of our
cafeteria
The nutrition,
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
So I know we had that added.
Yeah, cafeteria ended up, I understand somebody must have asked that a question ahead of time because I was prepped on that one. So the cafeteria ended up with 639,000 ending fund balance that's going to be carrying over. A 10 of that, part of that is restricted. So the operational piece of it is about half. The other half is there is a grant that came in last year for infrastructure, kitchen infrastructure and training program it's called. So that grant hasn't been touched yet. So that's carrying over. That's 250,000.
Okay.
And then there's another supply chain grant that has some carryover. So your cafeteria is doing very well. If you can end in the black,
Yeah.
your
Used to
cafeteria
be-
is doing.
Used to be a fantasy.
Yeah.
Do you remember when?
Oh, yeah.
And can we put that back into the food?
Well, I gotta say on that, I gotta give a shout out to Amanda tomorrow,
Mhm.
because we were just talking yesterday and she's trying out something new almost every week and testing it with students, and they're getting rave reviews. And of course, I mean, some of that is because some of that ending fund balance is because we're getting free student meals, right? And we get reimbursed for that. But more and more students are taking advantage of it because the word of mouth is spreading. So she is a rock star. She's doing phenomenal work.
Mhm.
Yeah, districts are having really good success with scratch cooking again. And I mean, if you can afford to do it, and I understood that there was a grant that the district got to help afford that. And then you have some more kitchen infrastructure grant, but that really has made, I've seen it make a difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Well, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Well, thank you.
Good question.
All right.
Good for one.
Curious, is, now, are we getting money from Prop 28? And is that yet for the arts?
Well, I mean,
Or is that-
so Prop 28 is for the arts. It's been a little nebulous on how to access it, but we're learning more and more about that. And I mean, we already have our integrated arts program. So
Okay.
that's in place. So, but it is nice to know that there'll be another funding source for that.
This is probably not the place, but I've been reading on the props that are gonna be up on the primary and the general election next year. Is there anything that you've seen or that we might have a heads up on that's gonna affect? When I read it, there's nothing, I mean, you know, that I could see that was really gonna affect what we do or schools and stuff like that. Have you guys gotten a different take on them? I think there's like 9 or 10 released already that.
Yeah, maybe I can put that in a Friday update.
Okay,
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. These are all great questions. I don't have anything else to add. Appreciate
Yeah.
appreciate the presentation. I appreciate those numbers. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
every time we hear a report, it's very, very important. We have the balance and we
Mhm.
know what might be looming and we know what we should be planning for, but we can also really appreciate where we are now and how not only do we have money that's actively improving kids' experiences and staff experiences, but that we have funding that's available to continue on, at least until we don't. But that's a great place to be, So I
Well, I
appreciate
think we're
it.
gonna be doing better in attendance anyways, I mean, I see that as kind of turning a corner. I know
Mhm.
COVID was a great time for couples staying at home. So you figure 5 years after COVID, hopefully we'll see an influx in our attendance.
That is a very optimistic
Demographic
perspective.
I'm
projection.
going there. I want to turn it around.
Optimistic, yeah. I'll check and see if we have any quick questions. kids.
I just want to
Additions.
say, I really appreciate being back at SoCal District and thank you for asking me, and I really, I really enjoy being here, but your staff, most of, except for Janet and Pam. There's a good number of people have changed over, but Lori has been exceptionally helpful and great to work with. No, absolutely. You have really a star here, that is learning a lot, and it's really good. It's good. It's been good working with her. I've been here a pretty short time, but we have been spinning to make this happen, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome.
Thank both of you. for
Yeah.
Yeah.
All your help stepping in.
Yeah.
It was a pretty daunting task, but I mean.
First it was, but
But once
Thank you
we
both.
Yeah,
hit our stride, it's good.
thank you. We really appreciate it. Thank you. I doubt we have any questions on email, but
Nothing on email.
because everyone on YouTube probably read through the entire report. Yeah.
I appreciate this being, I won't clog us too much tonight. This is not my personal learning time, I know. But I am curious about the ELOP stuff and the code. I just want to understand the one-time COVID relief that is, if I'm understanding this right, a lot of the COVID relief funding that is, we know isn't going to continue to come is tied up in some of these numbers,
Mhm.
right? And so the money for the ELOP that we've seen to be so successful that people are talking about, once the COVID relief fund is over, are we, when we spend that remaining balance, the state is not continuing, that is something that is
So
specific.
ELOP specifically?
I'm specifically asking about ELOP, right?
Yeah, so ELOP, what we know is we have it this year, but it's not guaranteed for next year. But we have learned that it's a pet program for the governor. He really believes in it. He really believes this is a way you make difference for students. And so we're very hopeful, not naively hopeful, we're, you know, with reason hopeful that it will continue into the future.
And
But what we know
ELOP
for right now is we have it for this year.
And ELOP and the governor and the COVID relief. Was he saying this was part of COVID relief? The ELOP is part of that COVID relief fund?
Separate
or it's
fund.
separate?
Separate fund.
Okay, thank you. Great. And then I'm wondering about that with the declining one we've had on the like future and like the things that we're actively trying to fix or not fix, you know what I mean?
Yeah, address.
Address. Thank you. Are some of the stuff with the COVID protocols being out the window, not out the window? I'm sorry.
You need to worry less about, you're very eloquent.
Yeah.
Stop guessing yourself.
Anyway, with that, the protocols having been relaxed. And so now, you know, that has been helping a little. I'm sure that that's part of what's helping is that students aren't having to stay home for as many days. Are there other things besides that the district is doing that you've seen doing that like
Absolutely.
principals are trying that
Absolutely.
teachers can know about? I mean, I'm just curious, what else are we doing to kind of get the
So
students?
there's two ways to address it. One lens is through overall attendance rate. And so that is some of your more general, let's have incentives. We talk about which incentives might motivate students. We're not sick. We don't want sick students to come to school, right? But I do think during COVID, you know, I mean, there were students who were just out COVID, but I think some families, you know, I know I'll speak as a parent. Sometimes it was like an expectation that maybe it was a little easier to stay home than 3 or 4 years ago before COVID. And so I think it's getting back to some of those expectations that unless you're sick, you're in school, and let's not plan vacations, you know, some of that. So communication's a part of it, incentives is a part of it. So that's on the overall attendance rate. And then I think the other lens to come at it is reducing chronic absenteeism. So those families that do have 10, you know, students with 10% or more absences, which is 18 absences in a year, and not letting those things sneak up on us. So we already have systems in place where we're on about the 30th day of school, I think, you know, students that have 3 or more absences, we already have those lists, and counselors are engaging in the work. First, how can we support those families? Sometimes maybe it's as simple as we don't have routines to get to bed and get up on time, and little things like that. Set your alarm clock on the other side of the room so you have to get up. You know, I mean, little things like that matter, and our counselors can have an impact with families on that. So constant monitoring, constant support, and then having the teams in place when some of those things don't work to, you know, make sure that we do let families know that it is the law that their students have to attend school. So always being supportive first, but when we need to be a little bit stronger than that, have those teams in place too. And our county has a great student attendance review SARB team. So I think all of those, all across those levels and from both of those lenses is one of our biggest focuses this year.
Awesome. I love it. I have just one more last one. And that is just about this art, music and instructional materials discretionary block grant that has lots and lots. Is that currently are we using that for teachers at our school? For example, is that What's that one? That's
No.
cool.
So that's discretionary, or it can be used for art and music, which is I would say a unique way that money came to us, because it's like use it for art and music or anything else.
Yeah.
So we haven't tapped into that yet because we have our integrated arts program in place. But that is something that we'll be talking about how to
Because it's
optimize
still
in the
part of the
future.
restricted fund, so it does have to be used for art, music, or discretion, whatever that means to enrich in some way.
Yeah.
Cool, that's cool.
Very cool. Yes.
Thanks.
Great question.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. I think we're all set then. Okay, thank you, team. This is really, really helpful. I think we're on to 9B then.
Is that an action?
Do we have to take a vote?
Oh, should we vote? Yeah.
It's them. They get really.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
move.
We have a motion to approve our unaudited actuals. We've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Sorry about that. Thank you. Getting so excited for the next one. Considering approving the annual update of our plan for educator effectiveness funds grant.
Okay, well, thank you. Great to be back in front of you again. So each year, well, let me just start with, in 2021, we brought a grant proposal to the board for approval. And in that proposal to the board, we said we'd like to try to get a grant for educator effectiveness funds. And to do that, we need to write an idea about how we might want to spend those funds over the course of 5 years. At that time, the board approved the plan, and that plan included mentorship for new teachers and compensation for the mentorship of new teachers. It included the new teacher project, which includes clearing our new teachers' credentials and supporting them in that process. It included stipends for teachers who do some extra work to support the staffs that they have. It also included professional development allocations for each site. So if a site was really interested, like in project-based learning, they could send their staff to be developed in those areas specific to that site's interest. It paid for some teacher release time for assessments specific to first grade, because we had just exhausted a grant that was paying for that, and we really wanted to try to continue that. So it was a way to try to fit that back in. And then additional teaching resources. And so it was a really great way to kind of explain some of the ways that we wanted to retain and recruit really strong teachers that would stay in SoCal, because we know that that's the best investment we have, right? So for our students. So this is a plan that is a little deceptive in kind of reading it, because it says it's the 2022-2023 plan, but it doesn't talk about 2022-23. It talks about the year before. And that's the first year of the grant. So we're not even talking about like what they were just talking about. What they're talking about is the first year of the grant. And in that first year was the year that the board approved it. So in that year, we were only able to spend $900 of the dollars that we got out of the grant. We got about $500,000. So I don't want the board to think like, we got all this money and we're not doing anything with it. We're actually doing a lot with it, and have to plan out our structured spending over time, because it has to last us that long. And we know that year to year, we're going to have varying levels of new teachers. So in the first year of the grant, we actually had lots of new teachers, but we didn't have the grant at the beginning of the year. In the second year, which was this past year, we had very few new teachers. So the amount of money that we thought we might be spending in that year was diminished because we had less turnover. So it's always like a prediction of what we think we're going to spend. That said, you can see by this report that going into last year, we had about $400,000 or over $400,000 left, which gives us kind of this vision of the future. Over the next 4 years, which are the remaining years, we've got about $100,000 to spend. And so what we're talking about with our teams is aligning a little bit more money to site-based professional learning if there's an area of interest. So as an example, Santa Cruz Gardens is looking at a maker space that would be very similar to what SoCal Elementary did with their maker space. And because it went with professional learning in terms of like design teaching, we're able to use that fund so that the site doesn't have to use their site funds to be able to provide that professional learning. So we're looking at ways which we could spend that money over time, but really invest in our teachers to promote good instruction. So the plan that you see is basically one that the state says that you have to do. Lori and I worked together on the plan. We're like, but it doesn't tell you what we're doing. And it's like, you're behind, like, it doesn't make sense. But that said, it does have to be approved by the board each year. And that's really to validate the board's initial choice for us to receive the grant with the plan that we had put in place at the time. So that's my request, that the board approve this section.
So it'll look really different next year.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This makes sense. Yeah. I was wondering when I looked at it ahead of time, like, oh, that's a low number, but I know you.
But we spend money if we have it.
Of course we do. Of course we do. Questions, comments from the team?
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep putting the money in our.
yeah, there's a lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
that's. Yeah.
So, as clear as this document is, I still was not able to tell if there's indirect in there.
That's something I can't really.
Yeah, that's
Tell
what I thought. I couldn't tell either. So maybe in the Friday update.
Find that up.
Yeah.
Put it
I
on the
would-
Friday update.
I would just, say, and Scott is exactly right on this one. We do prioritize our spending in terms of when it's going to be exhausted first. So there are times when we actually, and I'll give an example, we have an MTSS grant that exhausts earlier than this. So when we had teachers and staff members who wanted to attend the MTSS conference, those funds are going to be used first. So there's all kinds of different ways that we look at promoting professional learning, but also trying to be very financially savvy with it.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about when. It's just like, what's our cut?
I
That's really all I want to know.
don't know that can be said more directly. Yeah.
It's a direct, indirect.
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna get lunch.
Right?
Be clear.
Any other questions up here? No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Questions or comments from the audience?
Nothing on,
Nothing on email. Okay.
unless it came in the last 10 seconds.
No, okay. All right. Well, with that being said, do I have a motion to approve our annual update of their plan for educator effectiveness funds grant?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll say.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Excellent. Our last action item. Yes, thank you. Our last action item is to consider approving the agenda outline and date for our LCAP Community Forum.
So,
Woohoo.
yeah, so we always try to get ahead of this. So the administrative team will put a lot of work into planning it. Since I came into the district and I inherited the event, and we've kind of evolved it over the years and really tried to make it something where there's a lot of interaction between staff and parents, and we have breakout sessions, and really try to break down the barriers and let folks ask the questions they want to ask about all the important areas of the district. You can see in the outline there. When it kind of followed the dates, I originally had it on the date of February 14th. Forgot about that. And so we're proposing the January date instead. And so kind of what we're holding tentatively as an administrative team. If you all will lock it in for us, then we will continue our planning with a little extra vigor and try to get the word out and have good participation that night.
Excellent. Questions, comments?
Well, second line, you have not limited. So you may add.
Between now and then, because we do a survey in relation to it, and sometimes things will pop up in that survey that don't necessarily fall within those. So we always try to leave that little wiggle room to be responsive.
So then it doesn't have to come back to us.
No,
Okay,
no.
all right.
All right.
So I see on the I'm gonna focus in on budget and finance. What I would like us to add is a attendance component. I don't think it's its own table because who would go there? No one would attend the
Gonna
attendance.
be well
table.
attended.
But you know how we put up the signage around the
Yeah.
room?
Yeah,
If there is a way we can put up signage that talks about the impact to learning and the impact to earning.
learning and earning. You got it.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Be best if it was right behind the person moderating each table.
Just how about like trucker hats? So everyone get- Yeah.
Even the principal
But-
newsletters that go out,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
just,
yeah.
Hammering that message. home.
yeah, awareness,
Hammer it.
awareness.
Yeah.
Impact on learning, numbers
Well-
1, 2, and 3, but
Mhm.
it does have an impact on physicals too.
Mhm, right, I mean,
Yep.
every single strand here of these breakout groups is an opportunity to talk about it.
Great idea.
100%.
We'll weave that in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I don't have any questions or comments on this. I feel like you just keep building on it every year. It's
Have a
getting
good
better and
system.
better,
Yeah.
and I think you're getting a lot of
It was
really
great
great,
this year.
really great staff
Yeah,
input
total
too.
engagement from the community and us and the teachers and really nicely done.
Awesome.
And I've seen others too, and I think what we did was one of the best, if the only one that I've seen, you know, at that type of a forum,
Mhm.
you know, was neat.
And that's something we as board members can really also, take some responsibility for in terms of outreach, like when we do see members out in the community or people bringing anything to our attention, it's always a great, it's never too early to let people know, hey, we are going to have an in-person,
Yeah,
um,
maybe do a save the date too, like,
Yeah.
in those same principal emails or something like that, goes out to our.
Great idea. We'll get it
families and
out
Stuff as soon as possible.
every way possible.
Yeah.
Yep. And often.
And every year the kitchen tour is.
It's the hit, isn't
So
it?
you should just put it out there. Kitchen tour.
Want to come see our kitchen? Oh, by the way, there's a community.
It's quick.
You want to taste some of your kids' favorite recipes?
Yeah, let's serve some food.
Oh, yeah.
Just like,
Yeah, we'll get the band out there. Maybe even thinking of a couple other groups that could come and make it a festive evening. So we'll
There
get
you
some
go.
students in there too.
Excellent.
Terrific.
Well, let us know how we can help.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions or comments on the community forum? Thank you all.
Oh, hold on,
Yes,
hold on.
yes.
I got a question, in terms of lower enrollment, are we seeing that within the district at the elementary level, the middle school or high school level?
Yeah, yes.
Right, I was gonna say that. I mean, obviously, we don't have a high school, but we can see what goes on, across the county. It's a countywide impact.
It's national.
Hmm,
It is, okay.
yeah.
I was thinking possibly elementary because younger kids don't quite have the antibodies, they're still developing their immune system. They're more susceptible to getting sick.
Yeah, I mean, on the attendance side, that definitely would have an impact and everything we've been through. On the enrollment side, there's bigger like socioeconomic reasons, I think, and the high cost of living and
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Yep. Good question.
Thank you.
An older community and,
Mhm.
who else can afford $1 million home,
Mhm. All right, anything there was nothing on email on this one, right? So I do think we're gonna need to take some action to approve our agenda outline and date. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Awesome. Yay. All right. LCAP community forum on the books. Last few items, any correspondence anyone has to report? Anything received we need to report out on? No. Future agenda items, we've got a couple that are going to be coming up. Anyone have anything to request at this moment? You know how to reach us otherwise.
I don't think it should be an agenda item, but should we have maybe just on the Friday update, something about the CSBA, AEC?
Oh, yeah.
Just a little reminder.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, last item would be adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned 8:02 PM.
Thank you all for staying the
Thank you
whole
so
meeting.
much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well, you guys picked the right meeting to stay